Okay, my name is Sean Adair. I'm an instructor and mentor with the Cybersecurity Bootcamp program. This topic that we're going to talk about today, the benefits of being a certified cybersecurity professional, will hopefully kind of clear up a lot of complicated topics that are sometimes confused, and there's a lot of gray area. And especially when it comes to the industry and what's expected of you in the industry and stuff like that. So, but I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm currently active duty military. I'm in the Marines. I work over at Marine Forces Special Operations Command. I have about 15 years of the DoD military experience in communications and cybersecurity. Been all over the world, met a lot of amazing people and experienced some different cultures. One of the things that kind of got me started in this is originally when I first came into the military, I was a field radio operator, so I kind of worked with, radio transmissions and stuff like that. And I kind of was pushed into job titles that had to involve me getting my hands on networking and dealing with a lot more computers and stuff like that. And then not only in the military, but across the industry, everybody became more dependent on technology and computers. And then of course, the whole cybersecurity terminology came about. So as all that happened, I became more interested in it and really saw opportunity, to go other places and not only in the military, but also in the private sector as well. So, that's kind of what got me interested in it. And of course, then I became, introduced to certifications and what those meant and how that differs from, having a degree and what employers and stuff look for. And being at the stage that I'm at in my career, I've also been on the other end and on who we have to hire on the DoD side and dealing with the contractors and what certifications we expect them to have and why. So we'll talk a little bit about that today as well. Some of my education, I hold an associate's in technical studies, a Bachelor of Science in Computer Networks and Cybersecurity. And I'm currently working on my master's degree in systems engineering with Johns Hopkins University. And we'll kind of talk a little bit too about how cybersecurity ties into some of these other industries such as systems engineering and why certifications apply to that as well. Some of the certifications that I hold is CompTIA A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus. CCNA routing and switching and security. I'm a certified ethical hacker. I'm a certified junior penetration tester. I'm currently working on my certified professional penetration tester certification as well. Done some Lean Six Sigma yellow belt training, some CSSP training, and various offensive and defensive cybersecurity training as well. So that's a little bit about me. Kind of get a little bit into the topic now. So some of the things that would like for everybody to walk away from this webinar is for you to be able to understand the many different certifications. Be aware of current average annual salary of different certifications. Some certifications pay higher than others. And of course, money is always on everybody's mind when it comes to working in the IT and cybersecurity field. So we'll, kind of talk about, what pays more, why it pays more, and, that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about how certifications relate to a DoD policy. It's called the DoD 8570. And the reason we're going to talk about that is because there's a lot of jobs that are contractor jobs or even government civilian type jobs when working not only with the DoD but other federal agencies as well. And they abide by this policy called the DoD 8570, which says you have to have certain certifications for certain positions. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about understanding the different values between certifications and degrees. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. They do complement each other, but we'll talk about how certifications kind of play a role in that. And then the other thing that we're going to talk about too is the Texas A&M Cybersecurity Bootcamp and the benefits that it has. So I myself have been through several different training approaches, and I can honestly say that the Texas A&M Cybersecurity Bootcamp stands out. It takes a little bit of a different approach, which helps a lot of people out. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. Okay, so lesson 1 is going to be the world of IT and cybersecurity certifications. Lesson 2 will be, again, the average salary of certifications. Lesson 3 will be certifications in the DoD 8570. And lesson 4, certifications versus degrees. And lesson 5 will be the Texas A&M Cybersecurity Bootcamp benefits. So speaking in terms of certifications, whenever you start diving into certifications, if you went on a job website, like Indeed or well, what's another one? We'll say dice.com. That's a job website that's IT and technical heavy. You'll see a ton of certifications. You'll see a lot of CompTIA certifications, A+, Sec+, Network+. Now they have CASP and Cybersecurity Analyst. They have PenTest. They have, you name it, they have a certification for it. And then Microsoft, they have their certifications as well. Many different ones. They kind of work at different levels. Then you have, a big one that you'll see a lot called CISSP, and that one is distributed by ISC Squared. CISSP is considered the gold standard certification in cybersecurity. It's a very, very hard test to take and pass. One of the hardest. But when we get to the talking about the DoD 8570, we'll see how CISSP applies to a lot of those positions as well. And then, there's another one you see a lot is CEH, so Certified Ethical Hacker. Certified Ethical Hacker is distributed by EC Council, and what that certification does is basically talk about the methodology of pen testing. So it covers a lot of the same stuff that Security Plus covers, but it gets more into pen testing and how that process works out, and then also kind of like what you can and can't do, and how to appropriately obtain permission to conduct a pen test and stuff like that. So obviously that's where the ethical piece comes out of that certification. And now EC Council also offers so they have a written test for CH, and then they have a PRACAP test. So that's something that you see a lot added in all these certifications now, is you see practical application implemented into the tests. When I took, as a matter of fact, when I took A+, Net+, and Sec+, all 3 of those tests had some sort of practical application right off the bat. I would say maybe the first 5 questions were all PRACAP type questions, where you have to actually apply some of the concepts and stuff to a scenario. You either have to put in firewall rules, or configure a router, something of that nature. So what do certifications do? Well, certifications kind of cover they cover a wide range of skill sets. There's not really, you're not going to take a certification and say that, okay, well, I'm really good at identifying different viruses. So Sec+, for example, doesn't just cover viruses. They cover secure protocols. They cover different types of malware. They cover different types of attacks. A whole wide range of things, and it applies the same way with A plus and Network Plus too. CompTIA A plus, that covers a lot of the different computer parts and components that make up a computer, a laptop, and stuff like that. But they also cover on how to work with somebody when it comes time to troubleshoot different devices and stuff like that. Certifications are related to job positions at different management levels. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is sometimes your entry-level positions would only require something like CompTIA A plus or CompTIA Network plus, whereas when you move higher into the management chain, now they would require something like CISSP or CISA, which is another certification that speaks to the same knowledge domains as CISSP. Once you get higher into those management levels, they require a higher certification. Obviously, with that comes more pay and stuff. So, but some of the other certifications that can kind of go along with those that help out a lot too. Or sometimes you'll see CISSP in the job title, but then you'll also see them wanting something like project management or PMP. So sometimes, again, those certifications coincide with like a project management type related certification, or even like a Lean Six Sigma, type certification. So, and the certification knowledge themselves, like CISSP and CySA and CISM, within those certifications, as you study them, you will also see references to project management topics and stuff too. So they all kind of speak to each other, and they can complement each other as well. But again, that's how you see it kind of through management levels. And then, of course, sometimes the certifications are more skill set related too. So, for example, certified ethical hacker will, kind of teach you more skill sets along the lines of pen testing instead of like, networking per se. So there's, a situation where it kind of moves into a different area. Some certifications are written tests, some are practical, sometimes both. And honestly, these days most likely you'll see both. Again, as I said earlier, when you go into these different tests, you're going to start out, with at least I would say 5 prac app questions, where you're asked to configure a firewall, a router, or switch, or place certain port numbers, with the appropriate ports and protocols. So, there's just different methods and stuff. So I would say that as you take these certification tests, expect to come across both now. So certifications can be industry neutral, but some are vendor specific. So what does that mean? So CompTIA their certifications are considered industry neutral, and they base the certifications off of what subject matter experts, what input they give them when they develop these tests, and they bring it from all over the industry. So they're not really going to speak to a specific vendor, like Microsoft or Cisco. But Microsoft will have, that is more vendor specific. They have certifications that speak to, Microsoft servers and stuff like that. That doesn't mean that they also don't teach, best practices that CompTIA may speak to. Most of the time they do. Same thing with Cisco. Cisco has very specific certifications that are related to networking and switching. For example, CCNA or CCNP. Those are, very specific to Cisco and switching and routing, but they also, teach, best practices as well. So even though there's vendor specific and there's industry neutral certifications, they still complement each other, and they usually teach along the same lines. but CompTIA is notably, more industry neutral. Okay, so let's kind of talk about some of the interesting pieces about these certifications. So this is usually the favorite topic, is how much do you generally get paid? Well, it kind of depends, and obviously, but there's a couple factors that play into these numbers. It depends on where you live, the cost of living, and who you're working for and stuff like that. Now, these are the top paying certifications pushed out by Global Knowledge, and they push out, annually, they push out a report about the top paying certifications. Ever since I've been in this industry, I've always seen CompTIA certifications within this list. I've also always seen CISSP, CISM, CEH. They're always in this list. One of the things that would, you got to keep in mind too is if you see a job, in Washington, D.C. that pays $110,000 a year, well, Washington, D.C.'s, it's expensive to live there. So you got to keep stuff like that in mind. And just because if you see maybe a job that requires CompTIA Network Plus, but they're only offering, $70,000 a year, well, maybe that area has a low cost of living. So you don't need, $110,000 a year. Maybe the cost of living, a lot of people get by on $30,000 a year, so $70,000 a year is actually really good. So you got to keep stuff like that in mind. That that kind of plays into the numbers as well. But again, these certifications, they contribute to your salary a lot. And if you remember me earlier talking about how some certifications complement each other with like a project management type certification, as you see in the second one down from the top, PMP is up there as well. And that's because they coincide with a lot of management positions. So you'll see CISSP up there and CISM as well too. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the DoD 8570 01 TAC M and what this means for certifications and what that means for you when you get a job. So the DoD 8570 is a DoD policy that requires positions to be labeled as IAT, IAM, etc. So IAT means Information Assurance Technician, and IAM means Information Assurance Manager. And these are labeled out as in 1, 2, 3. Same thing for IAM. And then there's some other positions that are labeled as well. And there's a chart that we'll get to in a minute. So what this policy does is it talks about the cybersecurity workforce within the DoD. Well, what does that mean to you? If you don't work for an agency in the DoD or some other federal agency, like how does that apply to you? Well, if you're hired on by a contracting company, that says we need you to be Sec Plus certified to work, for DISA or something like that. DISA is the Defense Information Systems Agency. That's part of the DoD, and just because you're not working directly for them, you're working for the contracting company. The contracting company has to abide by that policy, and that's part of the contract. So they're going to require you to be certified for certain positions. There is a new policy, the DoD 8140, that basically kind of gives a little bit more wiggle room for these certifications. And it says, if you have a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree or some kind of degree that is related to that field, then you don't have to be certified. Or if you do have a degree and you do have a certification, then that qualifies you for an even higher level position. So a lot of people thought when the DoD 8570 came out that it was too strict and it was too hard to be certified, and there was time constraints and all these other factors that played into it. And then that's the reason why they introduced the DoD 8140, was to kind of loosen it up a little bit and provide other avenues of approach. But what's interesting enough is that even on my side of the house, on the Marine Corps, is when we have contracting agencies come on board, we tell them, hey, we still want this guy to be Security Plus certified or to be Network Plus certified or something like that, because it's still, those certifications still validate that the individual has the ability to learn, has ability to to understand the basics and stuff. They may be certified and they may not be an expert in everything, but at least they can speak the same language and be able to work with within that skill set. So let's talk about what we look at in the DoD. So this is what the DoD 8570 chart looks like, and this is the most recent one actually pulled from the DISA website. And so what I've done is I've highlighted these certifications and stuff that actually the Texas A&M Cybersecurity Bootcamp teaches, and just to show you all the different positions that they qualify for. So from the top left, reading over to the far right, you'll see IT level 1, 2, and 3. Notice that CompTIA A+ that automatically qualifies you for IT level 1. And this position would be kind of like your basic system, almost kind of like a help desk type position. People, they're having an issue with their computer, so they submit a trouble ticket, or you would answer, trouble tickets and kind of, look through the ticket. And, we use a system called Remedy. You look through the ticket and see what's wrong, and you kind of make your assessment from there. If you can help them over the phone, you go for it. If not, you push it up to tier 2. Network Plus Network Plus used to qualify you for IT level 2 back in the day, but I think they moved it back down to IT level 1. Network Plus talks a lot about what's in CompTIA A+, but it gets more into networking, and there's a lot of emphasis on ports and protocols, and they have a lot of security stuff in there too. So Network Plus is still qualifies for IAT level 1, but is considered to be a little bit more advanced. And then you can see in there too, it's kind of the red's kind of covering a little bit, but you'll see CCNA Security and SSCP in there as well. So SSCP is actually a kind of a pre-exam to CISSP. So if CISSP was a bachelor's degree, SSCP would be the associate's degree. So that's what SSCP is. But we're going to focus on the CompTIA certifications. So another one is the CySA Plus, so that is Cybersecurity Analyst. That is a CompTIA certification that was introduced pretty recently. And then you see Security Plus in there as well. And when you see the CE stands for Continuing Education. And what that means is whenever you get certified, every 3 years you have to recertify. There's a couple ways to do that. You can take the test again, which would be really hard, or you can continue. You can attend webinars such as this one. You can attend conferences. You can write a white paper. You can take some online courses. I think CompTIA even offers a course now where you take and it qualifies for all your CEUs for the entire 3 years. So there's different avenues, but what that CE does is it ensures that people that are certified are continuing to stay up to date with the knowledge, because the cybersecurity field is a very, very fast-paced field. On a daily basis, there's something new or something changing. It is very fast-paced, which makes it exciting and not as boring. So it's that's the fun part about it. Okay, but so we talked about IT level 1 and IT level 2. Okay, so now we're going to talk about IT level 3. So IT level 3 is a little bit more advanced. it's still like it's a technical related position that would be more like your tier 3 kind of guy that basically, once tier 1 and tier 2 are kind of having some issues, they can't figure out what the problem is. Your tier 3 guys usually, he's still, he's probably maybe like a team leader and, has a lot more knowledge and stuff like that. Another certification that I actually want to point out is CASP. If you go 3 up in that IT level 3 box, that top certification, CASP is another certification that kind of speaks to the same stuff as CSSP. It talks a lot about policy, the software development life cycle, things of that nature. It really gets into management kind of terminology. What makes CASP and CSSP really difficult and hard is the fact that the knowledge is about a mile wide and an inch deep. So it's a lot of stuff to really cram in, and a lot of people spend a lot of time studying that. But when you put in the hard work and all that study, the benefits that come out of being certified in some of those higher certifications really pay off. What a lot of people do is they start out with CompTIA A+, they study it really well, and then they start building upon that, because all this stuff builds off the basics. Even in the CSSP exam, you can still see some basic questions in there. They'll kind of throw at you, to throw you off a little bit. So, but yeah, they all build upon each other. Now let's get into the IAM positions, so Information Assurance Manager. So these positions basically, they teach you, or they allow you to, you're signing off on accounts, you're authorizing people to, to have an account, you're managing, a cybersecurity workforce, you get more administrative access to servers and whatnot, so a lot more responsibility comes with them. And then usually those positions too, you get paid a little bit more. And as you notice, the certifications are higher too. Again, you see Security Plus, CASP, CSSP. You'll see another one in there that was recently added, CISO. That is a Certified Chief Information Security Officer. That is another certification that is pushed out by EC Council. So they've added more certifications to to kind of give people a little bit more options and stuff. And then the positions you see below that, Information Assurance System Administrator and Engineer. So those positions are usually a lot more technical. Those are kind of like your subject matter experts in some area. But you see CASP, CSSP. There's more positions that those certifications qualify you for. Now towards the bottom, those bottom 5 boxes, you see CSSP. So CSSP stands for Cybersecurity Service Provider, and what that is that's a organization or a group that provides cybersecurity support for another entity. For example, on the DoD side, we have DISA, as I mentioned earlier. So DISA, they push out, they're considered as CSSP, and they're a cybersecurity service provider because they push out policy, client-side security solutions, network security solutions. They push out updates and STIGs and patches and stuff like that. The Marine Corps, we also have our own CSSP. So in terms of the DoD, that's what the CSSP means. And then you have CSSP Analyst, Infrastructure Support, Incident Response Manager, and Auditor. And as you notice, 2 of those courses, which actually the Texas A&M University Cybersecurity Bootcamp teaches, is CH and Cybersecurity Analyst. Both of those courses are very good. You'll learn a lot of the, in those certifications, you learn the same fundamentals, except one kind of steers more towards being defense, and the other one steers towards more being, offense. So what do I mean by that? Well, in defense of cybersecurity, your priority is to ensure that the network is patched and secure and operating, to its full potential under, the most secure attributes. Whereas in CEH, you're learning more you're learning more offensive security type material and methodology. Again, you learn more about pen testing and stuff like that. So what these certifications have in common, even in Security Plus, is that you learn, the value of knowing what ports and protocols are open, and that kind of falls into, scanning and enumeration and stuff like that. Scanning your network is something that defensive cybersecurity personnel do, and that's also something that offensive cybersecurity personnel do. Is that, that's the first thing. So you want to know what is open in your network, what's vulnerable. You want to be able to map it out. You kind of want to be able to visually, see the network. So whether you're defense or offense, you learn those basic fundamentals and how to do that. Eventually, they branch off into different skill sets. Once you get more into, for example, for CEH, you start learning how to, conduct that pen test and execute those exploits and stuff. Whereas in, cybersecurity analyst or in defense, you learn how to defend against those exploits and make sure your servers and stuff are patched. Then also learn how to recognize attacks as well. And that's pretty much the DoD 8570 in the chart, and how those different positions kind of play into different things. Again, A+ and Net+, that kind of qualifies you for your entry-level positions, and then once you get more into advanced level positions, you're looking at Cybersecurity Analyst Plus and Security Plus, and then management positions will include CASP and CISSP. And again, CASP is also taught by CompTIA, or distributed by CompTIA, excuse me. And then, once you get more into a specialized skill set, you'll start seeing CEH in there as well too. So this is an interesting topic, certifications versus degrees. You'll hear a lot of debate throughout the industry. Some people say that degrees are better, because they show that you have determination and you're not going to quit, and you've completed something, and then you've invested into all this knowledge and stuff like that. And then some people say, well, certifications are better because they show that things that you actually need to know in order to execute the job and stuff like that. So the way that I kind of tried to break it down was basically degrees teach you critical thinking on a wide range of topics, and sometimes they do cover topics of certifications. For example, my degree, I had a lot of general education that covered a wide range of topics, English, math, history, and stuff like that. And then my major, which was in cybersecurity, the courses actually coincided with a certification course. So I learned, CH through the course, and then I would go get, certified. So they kind of spoke to each other. But you don't have to have a degree, to get some of these jobs. Sometimes these positions, they just want you to be certified. So it really comes down to personal preference. I know when we look at somebody that we're thinking about hiring or coming to work for our organization, we look at degrees as a plus. Okay, a degree, they have a degree, then they can get, they'll get paid a little bit more, or that'll qualify them for maybe a management position later on. But it's a degree sometimes isn't always as much as a requirement as a certification is, because we don't really have a policy that says you have to have a degree to fill this IAT level 1 or IAM level 1 position. Now that DoD 8140 policy that came out, it does support degrees and says if you do have a degree, you can qualify for that position. But however, it's not a That's not a requirement. Most of the time, especially abiding by the 8570 policy, the certifications are a requirement. Even if we hire somebody without a certification, within 6 months, they're required to be certified. So it's certifications kind of, I feel like, they open more doors and stuff for you. And these certification agencies, all the tests are proctored. So there's a lot of accreditation behind it. And again, they speak to very specific skill sets and topics. Degrees are a little bit more broad. So I think it's more like comparing apples to oranges. Fruit salad, apples and oranges, they're real good together. But as far as which one's better, I mean, it's two different fruits. And again, there's a lot of positions out there that will require both. And like I said, they complement each other, but I've seen a lot of positions that will weigh a lot more heavily on a certification in this field than they will a degree. And the other aspect to really bring it into this topic too is the fact that that experience comes a lot with these these different job positions too. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Texas A&M Cybersecurity Bootcamp. So a few things that the Bootcamp offers is career advancement, counseling, upward mobility, projects, university accreditation, certifications, mentorship with industry experts, money back guarantee, and job placement assistance. And of course, they have different payment options that are available as well. But one thing that I would really like to point out as an instructor and mentor with the bootcamp is one thing that you don't get in a lot of other training avenues is you don't get that personal interaction. I've been to boot camps before where it was a face-to-face interaction, but it was almost a PowerPoint by death kind of topic, and we had 2 weeks to learn all this stuff, and the instructor was just trying to get through all these PowerPoint slides, and there wasn't really any labs associated with it, so it was really hard to learn it, and it was just kind of it wasn't a really good learning experience. And then I've also been exposed to courses where I've personally taken courses where course material was already developed, and you're working, it's self-paced, and you're going through all the different lessons and stuff, and they have labs, but when you want to talk to somebody about the actual industry and how this applies to the industry, or if it's still relevant, or you kind of want further explanation on a certain topic, it's not there sometimes. So what's different and unique about the Texas A&M Cybersecurity Bootcamp is that we have all that combined. So we have obviously the course material, which is the PowerPoints, but then you also have an instructor that's talking you through those PowerPoints. So you're not just reading it and then kind of sitting there thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, what did I just read? This looks strange. So you have somebody there that's explaining all that stuff. And then also, one thing that's incorporated too are labs. So these labs, they walk you through the main points that you just went through in the course material, and you actually go through a lab, and it walks you through it, and it explains what you're doing, and you're working on an actual virtual machine that's in a safe environment. So if you mess up, all you have to do is basically start over, or you can just reset the machine, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine, and it's back up and running. Whereas if you try to do that, some of these things to your own machine at home, you might have to run to Best Buy and go get another one. But yeah, so so you have a an instructor that's talking you through the course material. It's still some of it's self-paced, so it kind of gives you that flexibility. And then you also have the labs, which you can walk through the labs and again learn all that stuff. And then the other thing too that that you have with the Texas A&M Cybersecurity Bootcamp is you have mentor live sessions and instructors sessions. So for example, what I do is I hold I hold 2 live sessions a week. I hold one on Monday and I hold one on Thursday. And it sounds like a strange schedule, but what we do is we hold a 2-hour session on Monday evenings, and that's supposed to kind of close out the week. So the week goes from Wednesday to Tuesday the next week, and that allows students to have the weekend to really knock out a lot of material. So on Monday, I kind of review what everybody's done for the week and kind of go over some things that people are having trouble with and not understanding. And then the session that I have on Thursday is to really kind of start getting everybody prepared for the weekend, and kind of guide them along throughout the week on what to expect. And the other thing that that we try to do too is go through some of the labs and show everybody how we actually would conduct this, or we'll sometimes we'll talk about maybe a topic within the industry and how it applies to some of the course material. I've done live demos myself on breaking open a Kali Linux box, and which is used for pen testing, and doing some scanning and showing how those understanding your ports and protocols applies to an actual pen testing scenario. So there's all kinds of things that we do with this boot camp that uses the many different tools in the toolbox to help people learn and be certified and stuff too. So it's a really unique method, and I can say after 15 years in the DoD and in the military, and going through very many different courses taught many different ways, this is, when it comes to learning certifications and learning this stuff, this is probably the best method that I've seen, just because it offers all avenues of approach. And again, so they have different payment options that are available. You have the Texas A&M. They offer scholarships, deferred payments, and a monthly payment plan. You can do low down payments and no credit checks too. And again, we kind of just talked about this. One of the things that sets this bootcamp apart from other training programs is you do have a live instructor and mentor to help you, help guide you through the certification journey. And I would say that that's a huge thing, because you have somebody that's, again, can kind of tell you what's actively going on in the industry, and it can bring real life scenarios and situations into the lessons, and which makes it more interesting as well. And the other thing too that I really like about the bootcamp is the social platform. So if you have a question about something, you can post it on a discussion board, and you'll have a mentor or instructor. They'll answer the question for you. So what's great about that is that the platform, everybody can see the question. So some people are more introverted than others, and they may be kind of shy about asking a question, just because it can be an intimidating industry to jump into. So initially people are a little shy about asking questions, but but it's a great platform to post a question. That way everybody can see it. And then the other cool aspect about the course material too is when you go through the course material, you have an option in there called Click Knowledge, and what it does is you type in a topic, and it'll pull YouTube videos, it'll pull different lectures and videos and topics from all over the internet. So you kind of have like this one-stop shop where you can, if you want to get additional supplemental instruction or course material, you can. It'll show you where to go, and you can look at it. You know, maybe something that was explained in the course material, you know, just wasn't clicking with you, and then maybe if you watch a video from YouTube or something, you know, it kind of gives you that aha moment when you're like, okay, well, yeah, now that makes sense. So I know personally with me, you know, I've you know, been through that a lot. So sometimes I have to learn things from different avenues of approach. And the other thing too is you'll get projects, you know, that relate to the certifications. So you'll receive a scenario and then basically asked to complete a project, and which is, you know, where you can actually apply the knowledge of stuff that you learn, and that helps build confidence, and you know, you can actually show, hey, this is, I've actually learned. I actually installed an Ubuntu operating system, or I actually, you know, configured a switch, you know, stuff like that. So it kind of helps with your confidence, and when you apply that knowledge, you know, it prepares you for the actual certification exam as well. Which brings me to my last topic is preparing for these exams. You know, practice tests and stuff like that are included, and that's one of the things that we do in some of these live sessions. We go through, you know, these different practice tests, and we'll go through each question, and we'll discuss each possible answer. We'll research it, just to you know, validate that that we're picking the right thing, and talk about why the other answers are not correct, and you know, and stuff like that. So, and that really helps with, you know, validating what you know and what you don't know. So again, that all ties into how interactive that Texas A&M Cybersecurity Bootcamp really is. The link that you see on the screen is the splash page. That'll take you to where you can sign up and look at more information about the course outlines and stuff like that. And then the number that you see on the screen, you can also call that number, and you know, they'll give you more information about the different courses and programs they have as well.
So that is it. So thank you, Sean.